This is Econ in English, where we will be analyzing economic phenomena using everyday language. I'm Nathan Williams, here with Dr. Lewis Johnston, and today we will be talking about income inequality and how it affects students here at CSB SJU. But first, we asked some students about inequality in terms of family income. These interviews were taken outside Gretzky Fireside and showcase the preconceptions of CSB SJU students.
Hi, I'm Becky from Econ and English, and today I'll be asking St. Ben's and St. John's students their ideas about income inequality at the College of St. Benedict and the University of St. John's. Do you believe that the incomes of white and non-white families are different here at CSB SJU?
I would say they're about the same, just due to the atmosphere of St. Ben's. It's more like a prestigious school, so everyone kind of comes from the same general, but I'd say there's probably lower income as well.
Absolutely, 100%.
Definitely.
Yes.
What do you think the median income is for a family of a person of color at CSB SJU?
I don't even know. I don't even know what the average median income would be for anyone, but I would guess around $70,000.
60,000.
40 to 50,000.
Probably 80,000. I'm not sure.
That's okay. What do you think that the median income is for a white student at CSB SJU?
I'd say probably 70, 80,000 as well.
Probably 120,000. Probably double.
At least 80 to 90,000.
So how do you feel about those?
I mean, that's hard. I mean, I think it's coming from a suburb of Minneapolis, I have kind of grown up in that, but I think it's definitely an interesting statistic.
I'm not surprised that I got the color students semi-close, because that's where I live, based around that income level. But damn. Oh, you said what number again?
133,000.
You said 6 digits? Damn.
I didn't realize there'd be that big of a gap, but then I guess looking back at it, St. Ben's is pretty generous with scholarships and helping families out that can't afford college but still want to advance their education.
It's sad. I think the saddest thing is that people just don't understand how much that means.
So, how does income inequality affect students here at CSB SJU?
Well, it affects them in a number of ways. I'm going to give you some numbers. In 2015, the College Board took some data from the U.S. Census, and they found that the average income for a family that has a college-age student is about $86,000. Now, if you look more carefully at the characteristics of those families, if you look at a family that, say, one of the parents has an associate's degree, then that income goes up to about $110,000. We can also break this down a little bit according to racial and ethnic categories. So, for example, if you just look at white families alone and don't look at educational background or whether they've got kids going to college, that income's about $75,000. If you now look at families that have some kind of racial identification, Black, African American, Asian, that number falls to $60,000.
So, how does CSB SJU compare nationally?
Well, it's very similar to those numbers. So, for example, the median income for a white student's family at St. John's is about $130,000, $133,000 to be precise, while for a non-white student, it's about $51,000. Now, if we go to St. Ben's, the median income for a white St. Ben's student's family is about $120,000. For a non-white St. Ben's student, it's about $42,000.
So, why do these disparities exist?
Well, that's one of the great questions in income inequality in general and has a lot of relevance to St. John's, St. Ben's, but the biggest indicator of difference is the presence of college-educated parents. That is, if you come from a family where your parents went to college versus students whose parents didn't go to college, that's an indicator of the difference in income right there. So, for example, white students at St. Ben's, St. John's have income levels that are about on par for the national sample of college-educated families. That's not surprising because about 30% of St. John's, St. Ben's students are legacy students. So their parents went here. On the other hand, if you look at first-generation students, the income for a family falls to about $59,000. So that's across both white and students of color families. If they have parents haven't gone to college, significantly lower family incomes.
So why does this matter to CSB SJU students?
I think it matters for a couple of reasons. One I'll call an internal reason, and one I'll call an external reason. The internal reason is, suppose that you and I are roommates. Kind of hard to believe, right? But well, we'll imagine.
You're pretty lit.
Yeah, and I have a significantly lower family income than you do. So that means, for example, that we both are here at St. John's. We're both attending the same classes, but for example, if the professor mentions that there's some journal that would be really good if you could get an article out of it, and you need to buy a copy of it for yourself, the school doesn't pay for it or something like that, perhaps you could go get a copy of it and I can't. Or there's some kind of activity like a visit to the Twin Cities for a play or something, and again, it's not part of the curriculum and so the school isn't covering it. I might not be able to go, whereas you could go. So it leads to a very different educational experience inside St. Ben's, St. John's. And we should think about how can we reallocate resources so that the experience that you get or that I get, if we are these imaginary students, or more generally the real students, is similar in terms of what you actually are able to get out of it. So that's what I call an internal reason. External reason is it's pretty clear from academic research that students who have a more diverse college experience actually do better in the labor market. So for example, if we create an environment, that internal reason that I talked about a minute ago, that encourages students of different income backgrounds to come into St. John's, St. Ben's, and live here in our community for 4 years and absorb everything that we've got, then when they go out into the labor market, they're going to be better prepared for the world as it really is than students who, say, go to college for 4 years with people who look a lot like them. If they're all, for example, college educated, have college educated parents. You're going to do a lot better if your roommate and if the people you go to school with are different.
So this is the first part in a greater series on inequality, where we will go more in depth on inequality, why it matters, where it comes from, and what we can do about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to keep an eye out for these podcasts. They will be coming soon. And from all of us here at Econ in English, have a great day. Thank you.